I just want to thank Victoria Frost of Frosty Reviews on Twitter for sending this. That was so incredibly kind. This is going to be my very first Storm Collectibles and definitely my first Mortal Kombat figure to unbox. And Reptile, man, that's a classic character that I am excited to open up and check out. So we'll start with an overview of the box and everything that's inside of it. Then we'll look at details, articulation, and posing, and then round it all off with a nice overall rating. Let's get into it. So looking at the front of the box, we have this ages 17 and up, which is interesting. Some companies are 14, some are 15. How do you decide? You just kind of pick a number and go with it, I guess, huh? So action series of Storm Collectibles. The top of the box, Mortal Kombat. We got on the side here an actual illustration of Reptile. This is not a figure shot. And on this side, we do have a shot of the figure, and it is a gloss overlay versus the matte finish in the background. So that's a nice way to kind of present that image. It just helps it pop from the background. And then on the bottom of the box, we've got stickers on top of our stuff. So what's going on here? We have the Mortal Kombat logo in the background, and then some warning choking hazards that are actually covered up by more warnings and choking hazards. And this is for 15 and up. So what happened? We went from ages 17 and up to 15 and up. I guess it's a country-based thing, so maybe this is for the US. They think 15 and up, and then wherever this was originally released, I guess Hong Kong, 17 and up. Anyway, so back of the box, we've got some figure shots, some art in the background, but these are all the accessories and the figure itself that we get, and then a nice little bio. So without further ado, let's open this thing up and see what we got in the box. And it's just a very simple Mortal Kombat logo with some Reptile coloring for the sleeve. The worst enemy of this channel is going to be anything shiny and plastic because it catches all the lighting. So let's get all this plastic off and see what's in there. Okay, so here we go. We've got everything out of the plastic, and we've got a nice stand that's going to come here with a bunch of different ways to set up these little tabs, and I wonder how that ultimately works in the end. It seems like there's no claw arm, so how does he stick to it? Just no pegs in the feet. So this will be weird. Maybe it's just for this piece, I guess, huh? So a nice little overview. We've got the stand, the tongue, the spit. We've got the alternate head, and then a hood to go, I guess, on that alternate head. Then we've got all these extra hands and this effect that goes in behind him. So let's look at details. So starting with the tongue, that is incredibly long, and it's got some nice texture to it. It's nothing too wild. Overall feeling of this brand so far is that it's just kind of mediocre as far as like painting and stuff goes. It's all just very much toy-like. Maybe we'll see some differences going on here as we dig in, but the tongue, really long, very basic. We got the spit, which I do like that it's like a translucent, but it's also another very simple item, but it looks nice. We've got this alternate head, so of course Reptile with his classic rip his own face mask off. Looks like there's some articulation, which is nice, but this has the most paint and detail out of everything that I've seen so far. So I'm actually liking the work that's going in behind this. So the nice work around the teeth, there's like some paint. It looks a little sloppy around the teeth though. Let's see. The articulation is pretty extreme off of the body. Obviously there's probably gonna be limitations there, but to get a little closer look at the details there, I mean, the eyes look good. I like the sculpt work and the textures going on there, so that's nice. We've got this alternate hood, which I, again, assume will go on top of the lizard head, or the reptile, whatever you want to call it. And then we've got some alternate hands. So typical for most brands is that you'll get like a mirror copy. So no difference here, but it's not a lot of detail. I mean, the paint's really flat. The sculpting, I don't want to be offensive here to the sculptor. They're not going to see this video, but the sculpting kind of looks like something you'd make in pottery class. If you're playing with clay and you're trying to sculpt stuff like this, it's kind of weak. And I'm gonna go hard on this thing because it's $87 or $88 if you round up. That seems to be the going price on Big Bad Toy Store for the standard edition. All right, so $87, yeah. The hands, let's continue. We've got these kind of semi-gripping hands, which I guess are just kind of different poses for fighting, because he doesn't have anything to hold. He doesn't have any weapons. It's not the Mortal Kombat that comes later where they actually have weapons. This, I guess, is just the early days, right? Like his first appearance with that kind of outfit, I would think. We've got these hands, which, you know, are different. We got one pointing and one that's kind of almost an offensive gesture, but not quite. And then this pointing, like, I mean, I don't recall him being like have a moveset specifically where he's pointing at somebody, but I don't know, maybe, maybe. And then these hands, which are fine. They're just fully open. And then this effect, which, it's something that, it's like his thing where he like spreads his arm and it shoots out. It's nice to have. I guess it's a neat idea. So look at the details of Reptile, the figure itself. Now here the sculpting seems good. Like I like what's going on in the clothing. The muscular work seems okay. It's just, again, it's just a very flat figure and kind of sloppy with the paint and stuff. So this seems more like, I don't have a McFarlane figure, but this kind of seems like it would be in that realm. Like if it was $20, you'd be like, yeah, this is great. I'll take this thing all day long. But this is like $80+. But looking at the details, the eyes look nice. I like that. I don't think that the paintwork around the eyes are that great. It's like, you know, it's not controlled very well. There's a lot of sloppy edge work around the hood to his skin. It's just flat, and he looks kind of stumpy, like his legs, right? It's not just me, right? It just seems like maybe the lower half of his legs are too short. Something seems off though. It just looks like this belongs to a bigger figure and then this is a shorter figure. I don't know. It's very strange to me. Looks very weird, but it's never fun to go hard on an item that somebody was so kind to send me to open and review. But you know, I hope that part of the appeal is that I'm honest with stuff, and there's some paint that rubbed off, I guess probably in the box or something from his knuckle, his thumb. I can't get that off. But let's just continue. Any other details to really notice? I mean, it really comes down to sculpt work and some kind of flat paint work, but no pegs in the feet, which is a bummer. But it looks like we might have some really nice articulation, which might make up for a lot of stuff. So those are the details. Let's look at articulation. So starting at the top of the head, of course, it will spin all the way around. There's nothing there stopping it. Can we look down? Yeah, that's a perfect downward position, and then up is just kind of creates this weird disproportioned head look. So maybe that's another thing that's off. Is the size of his head too small? Anyway, so can we tilt the head? Yes, there's a nice ball joint for the neck, so you get some good dynamic range. You can kind of do that. The face plate comes off for no reason. I thought for sure there'd be like a human face under there, but it just comes off. Maybe it goes over top of that. I don't know. We'll find out. I doubt it. So nothing around the neck, which is fine. But we have the arms, which will go into a nice T pose, no problem. And then the joints here in the shoulders can rotate all the way around. And I like the sculpt work around all of this seems to work well. So even when you move the arm out of the way, you still get a good sculpt underneath. Nothing really feels off, which is good. But the joints aren't too loose and they're not too tight, not yet anyway, as far as being too loose. And then obviously there's a rotation here at the upper arm. We've got double jointed elbows, which are still limited because of the muscles hitting this armband. So despite being double jointed on the elbows, there is certainly some serious limitations there. And then there's rotation anywhere else. So you can move the armband a little bit. It's just kind of an additional piece. So it's not glued in or anything, but there's no additional rotation until you get to the wrist. So it spins all the way around and oops. It is a ball joint, and I do like ball joints, and they've done a nice job of hiding it. So definitely one of the better companies for hiding a ball joint and still including it. So ball joints are good because you can kind of get any rotation you want out of a hand or wrist without changing the hand. However, it pops off pretty easy because it's a very tight setup So even though they've hidden everything really well, it does force it off pretty quickly when you move it. Articulation of the wrist, it goes back, it goes forward, and then if you spin it, we should be able to, yes, rotate it that way. So if you got a character with weapons or you want to just do different poses with the wrist, you can. And that's going to be the same on both sides, of course. There's some articulation here in the torso. There's going to be limitations, of course, because of the clothing, but you can still get some really nice range. And then as far as like any ab crunches, yeah, incredible ab crunch. And then going backwards, the same. And then around the waist, we have some rotation. This is kind of a shot of what is inside there. What did I just lose? His face plate. So that's what's going on the inside, some kind of ball joint. You can get some good rotation and tilt. So articulation's really good so far. For the most part, we've got full splits. That's what the joints look like under here. So they're not ratchets, there's some kind of ball joint. You can rotate the leg however you need to, spin it. So kicking all the way forward, all the way back. And then the knees, which are double jointed, have a little bit more range than what the arms do because there's not really a whole lot getting in the way other than just the thick muscles. And then as far as additional rotation, looks like at the boot area, nope. So no rotation down the leg. That seems like a perfect spot to do it though. So there's actually nothing to rotate there. The ankles do not rotate either. So when you get down to the ankles, you just kind of have that traditional joint that a lot of figures do where when you spin it, it goes at like a different angle to help them go flat-footed, but you don't actually have like rotation anywhere down the leg. That's as far up as it goes and as far down as it goes. And then of course, as you can see, this foot or toe articulation, which is helpful. So the articulation's pretty good. It's not awful. Scale and everything seems off on a lot of this stuff. So let's check out the different head sculpts and see if any of this makes sense to put this on. So it's a tight fit. He's got a really tiny head. It reminds me of this. Yes, from the Super Mario Brothers movie. It does not look good. It is very awkward when it's on his body, but if you need a good Mario Brothers head sculpt, see if you can find a couple of these and put them on some other figure. Hood that goes on the top, which then just, that's weird looking. And no, there's no way for this to go on. So I guess the idea is if you want him to hold this thing like he just took it off to spit like in the game, and then his lizard face is exposed, but you wouldn't do that here because it just looks stupid. Whatever. So that's that. Let's see, we saw how the hand comes off. And again, it's just this very simple ball joint. These things are getting really annoying already. So very simple on the hands, nothing crazy. But yeah, I don't know. The size of everything that sculpts, and now his hands look really big compared to everything else. $87 or $88. I am so sorry. This sucks. Let's see if this thing can gain any ground in the posing stage. Okay, so there we go with his $80, almost $90 item. That is, man, what's the easiest? Well, you know what? Let's just get into rating it. We'll go that route. So when it comes to rating Reptile, we're gonna start with the details. The details, you know, they're fine. Lackluster is a great way to describe it. It's better looking online probably than in reality. I think the paintwork is just sloppy. The scale of everything is just off. I'm not really a fan. I don't know what the point of this stand is either, because you can just put this thing on it and you can make it whatever size. The only two things go into the base and they only go into this thing, and this is it. You can just have like really random sizes. You can make it up to this height. What's the point? Why would you do that? So I don't know. If it was a dynamic stand for him, then that would be cool. But that's not the details. Let's focus on details. Details, I'm gonna give him a 3 out of 5. It reminds you of the game. It doesn't look great. It could definitely have been better. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of this is just reused sculpt for the different characters for like Scorpion and Sub-Zero. So 3 out of 5, I think that's generous actually. So let's jump into articulation, and the articulation is actually pretty fantastic. You can get a lot of stuff out of there, but you get weird looking sculpts and heads that are random sizes. You get this extra one in the mouth, which is nice. It is not easy to get that base tongue, this little tongue. It is not easy to get that thing out of his mouth to put other stuff in. But articulation is surprisingly good. There's a couple spots that seem to be missing, like articulation around the calf or something. And then the hand really is limited, but we'll give him a 4 out of 5 on articulation. I think it's actually pretty good. So that brings us to posing, and you can actually have some fun with this character. There's limitations by the fact that you don't have a dynamic stand, and characters like this, if you have multiples, you would certainly want them fighting. So you'd want some up in the air doing jump kicks and stuff. So you need a dynamic stand, and I thought that's what came in the box. It's just not. So you need to get another stand, like an Obitsu stand or something, and use that if you want to have your characters fighting each other and have some up in the air, which of course you would want to do. But the posing is pretty good. It's fun. It just, you want to have some other characters to really make sense of all of it, but that's no fault of the character itself. So posing, I give it a 5 out of 5. So it's actually pretty fantastic for that. So if you have one of these, please don't just stand it in a vanilla pose. Take advantage of the few features it has as far as articulation and posing, and really get it into some cool pose. But that's it. I think those are the scores. That's the overall rating. Let me know, is this fair? Do you have some Storm collectibles? Is this just not a great one? Are there other versions of Mortal Kombat figures that are awesome, that like you just kind of get blown away, at least for the price? Again, I still think that this thing is worthy of being a McFarlane level pricing of like 20 bucks, because that's kind of what it feels like, looks like with the paint and stuff. You get all these extra accessories, so a fair price. What would be a fair price for this thing? Somewhere between $30 and $40, like max price. You'd have to really be a die-hard Mortal Kombat fan to feel good spending $80+ on every single one of their figures. It just isn't doing it for me. I mean, I've reviewed stuff that's pretty cheap price-wise, and I've rated these things, which are like $100 and some each. So it's not a problem of price, it's a problem of value. And this just isn't cutting it. So man, Victoria, I am so sorry. I hope that you still love it. I mean, if you're a big time Mortal Kombat fan, maybe that makes sense. But if you like it, there's some nostalgia to it, it would be cool to have. Not at the retail price. That's just insane. It's just not worth it by any means. But if you want to see a review of something that I fell in love with, then you have got to watch this one. We'll see you next time.